And we're live. Welcome to the second edition of Open Source Block Explorers Now. We have pretty much a free-flowing conversation here so that we can just get up to speed on the progress of getting an open source block explorer into the Ethereum system. So last week we did a bunch of stuff, and I put a bunch of comments below for all the links to POA Network and EthVM that Khosla is running. So if you guys want to see all the Blockchain Explorer stuff, just check and the progress that they're making, definitely check the links below. But for now, this is mostly just a conversation so that we can catch each other up on what's going on. So let's just start with intros. So an intro is like your name, who do you work for, what you're working on, and any intentions you have for this call. So I'm Griff, I'm from Giveth, and I'm not actually working on open source block explorers. I just want to see them happen. And my intention is to not talk very much. So let's go with Khosla.
Hi guys, I'm excited to be here on the second call. I'm Khosla, and well, also known as KVH Nuke. Work for MyEtherWallet, and currently working on a blockchain, open source blockchain explorer called EthVM. You can check the links like down below, like Griff said. I'm working on it with my team. David and Olga is mainly contributing to EthVM, and we have a new member coming in.
Any intentions for the call?
I want to know like what others did, because it's been, I couldn't even believe it's been 2 weeks already. But I want to collaborate with others and see like what are the most important features are, and then come up with a plan to put them live, make it live, and make it happen.
Cool. Conrad?
All right. Hi, I'm Conrad. So I'm with Brainbot Technologies. I have been working on the Radar network in the past, but then actually for the last 2-3 months, I've been stealthily working on ETH events. And ETH events is the Ethereum blockchain indexed in Elasticsearch. And yeah, I missed that first call and learned about this group and thought I want to share that with you. And yeah, my intention for this call is introduce you to what we have built and find out how this could come together.
Nice. Okay, how about you, Igor?
Hi guys, I'm Igor from POA Network. I'm working on Explorer and our network. So for me, the main goal for this call is to share our progress and answer questions from community, and discuss how can projects can collaborate more efficiently.
Oh. Muted. And Andrew?
Hey guys, I'm Andrew, also from POA Network. I'm the project lead on the Open Source Block Explorer. And my intentions for this call is really just to work with the community to find out how we can accept feature requests on a larger scale, instead of individually talking to different projects like we are now. But I look forward to the call.
Oh, awesome. And Alexander?
Yes, hi, I'm Alex from Brainbot also. I'm here with Conrad, also working on, or having worked on ETH events. And intention for the call is really see how this could fit in your plans. And I'm really excited to see that this is going to happen, hopefully, Open Explorer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the first thing on our agenda is a quick introduction by Conrad to ETH events.
All right. So,
let me actually just say that anyone who's watching on YouTube, if you have any questions that you want to ask, there's a little chat bar, and I'll be watching that chat bar. And also, if any of you guys have an agenda topic that you want, add it to the notes that the people who are on this call all have, and I'll make sure that we get to it. Okay, sorry about that, Conrad.
No worries. All right. So yeah, I actually do have some notes. Okay, that's helpful. ETH events. I been working on that for a couple of months now. We had lots of pain in the past getting events from the blockchain, just because with the tooling, it's a lot of pain for us as developers to actually see what is going on. And as events are the one thing that is supposed to tell you about internal state of contracts or what's going on there, we figured out we want to do something there. I had been working with Elasticsearch in the past, so naturally for me it came like, okay, let's try to see what we can get from this. And so what did we do? Basically, we just went through the blockchain, indexed it all in Elasticsearch. And so we have the standard building blocks, like blocks, transactions, and logs. But then we also took all the APIs we could gather and translated logs into actually events with human readable names and human readable arguments, and made sure we can index and create them in a useful way. So for the technology, basically it's an Elasticsearch cluster with a couple of 10 nodes or something, and then some API translator that also enriches the raw blockchain data, let's say raw blockchain data. And so while we were building this and trying it out, we basically realized this is might be a very good fit as a backend for customizable blockchain explorers, and then also for dApp analysis. So say you have your dApp, for lack of a better example, take CryptoKitties, and you want to display whatever is going on in your dApp. You need a way to actually get all the events that are happening and then aggregate over them or collect them. And I mean, you guys are all working on blockchain experts, so you probably understand the main problem. Yeah, from the strength from my point of view is of using Elasticsearch and having it in there is, first of all, it's quite responsive to actually query data. If you say, I want this exact transaction, it's not an issue. But then again, Elasticsearch is pretty awesome when it comes to filtering and aggregations. So say you just you want to see all events, that all ERC20 token transfer events from a certain address. Basically, you just build a query that can give you immediately an aggregation of the amounts overall sent or the amount sent over a date histogram, like weekly, hourly, whatever. Or filter all calls to a certain contract address that emitted a certain event, and then also get an aggregation of how much gas did people pay for interacting with this contract and stuff like that. So basically, once you got around the pain to get all the data in Elasticsearch, you get a lot of analysis more or less for free, at least if you have the right query. And then, so I think this is quite awesome. I don't quite know how the other guys know of your backend or think of your backend when it comes to such aggregations. And then the second part we did is that translation from events or from logs into human readable events. There we took a very generic approach. So basically, from just using the APIs, we started to index all the known types, all the possible types, in a way that you can then aggregate over just arguments of events. So you can say, give me the overall amounts of the transfer event, or show me the average price of the CryptoKitty auction, successful auction. And so we took that extremely generic approach. We don't say, let's have special documents for a token transfer. Instead, we just said have a generic way of querying through all events and make that usable. So yeah, that is ETH events in a nutshell. I don't know if it, yeah. Did it make sense to you, that explanation? Rush through it a little bit. So now the problem we see right now is actually with any open source blockchain explorer approach, that it's, at least from my point of view, it seems too costly for individuals to operate the databases, right? Because I mean, it's hardly feasible to even run an archive node on your own, or it's pretty unfeasible. I went through that myself. Also indexing, I heard you had some great numbers, like 4 hours for indexing all the data, but I don't quite see how you can make that happen if you also want to have all internal calls and stuff. My questions from here on are, or my goal here is, I think this sort of indexing we did is quite powerful, and it's actually really necessary for having a transparent ledger. And so I really want this to exist, and to exist further than just our experimenting here. Therefore, I want to find out how we can collaborate on this, and also if it would make sense. So far, we've been totally in stealth mode. It would make sense to open source also the backend part of it, and if there are any ideas how operations of that can be covered in any way, like community funding. And then lastly, and then I'm done, I'd be also really interested in just giving you guys access, because you are, I mean, you're building explorers and you are trying to get certain views on the blockchain. So if you're interested in trying out to query the blockchain through Elasticsearch, I'd be really excited to connect with you and try it out and see if it's really helpful for your use cases, or if you say, actually, we found a much better approach. Yeah, so I'd like to have some collab there. Thanks.
You guys have any questions for Conrad or any comments?
I actually like the way he approached the problem. Elasticsearch, I didn't even think about it, but I think that's really a good way to approach the problem, and like index everything, index all the events, and like add a filtering feature. I would love to take a look at the code if it's possible, and maybe integrate it somehow. I was impressed.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you got my contacts, I guess, or yeah, we are on Telegram. So
share it.
please, yeah, reach out, and then let's try next week to yeah, run some experiments.
Yeah, maybe we could all do it at the same time. I'd love to take a look as well, and yeah, see where it could go. That'd be great. Okay. Yeah. So one thing to note, I didn't quite explicitly say it. So far, we didn't very much focus on front-end parts of it, but instead should really just working on queries, working on mapping of data. So be prepared for some raw experiences, but I guess yeah.
Oh, you're giving yourself a hard time. The screenshots that you guys added look pretty nice.
Oh, did we?
I just want to add. Sorry, while Conrad was talking, I added some screenshots.
Ah, nice.
They're like in the document, so sorry for spamming them. But yeah, you can put them out or whatever. It's just like the interesting part about these screenshots is not what you see there. I mean, that's pretty obvious for Explorer, but how they were made. It's just like really easy to be done for a front-end developer. I think it's just like a Vuejs framework or something. But it's just like, the access is very easy, because we don't have to have a node running or something like this, but we can just access Elasticsearch. I mean, we can right now, we have to see how this could work for the public. But yes, so that was the thing about this. You can see these screenshots, and you can see it as a single-page application, kind of, or a very easy HTML, JS page where you can facilitate the Elasticsearch or ETH Events server.
Very cool. Do you guys have plans on open sourcing it, or it's still kind of like soon, or it's still kind of in progress?
It is kind of in progress. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the first sort of public mentioning of it, but we are also eager to show it to more people and get it out there. So that must happen very soon.
Cool. Well, I think this is a good step forward. You know, get EthVM. And is there a name for POA's Blockchain Explorer? Do you guys have a name?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're still deciding, and here are some questions because we're building for. First of all, we're building for to use it on POA network, right? But we understand that it's a community explorer, so it should be it will be good if this explorer will be used by other side chains, forks, private networks, and so forth, right? And so that's why we need to think carefully about branding, about naming, because if we have POA everywhere, it's not very convenient for guys from let's say not competitors, but other projects with their own stakeholders to use it, right? So that's we're in the process, and I think on next video stream we'll tell our final name for the generic name for the Explorer, and our ideas about how to make it used by other. And can I jump into our
Yeah, exactly. That's the next point is Retro from POA team.
Yeah, so I will give some blocks of information. I will stop and ask if you have questions or so forth, right? So we started about how to make Explorer, and in our case we're already doing something, and how to make it usable by other teams and by other projects. So one question is about naming, second question about branding, third question about governance and feature request and so forth, right? So lots of open questions, and that's good that we're raising those questions and thinking about them before it's kind of too late to change, right? So it's good that we're thinking about on this stage. So I put some links into document about our timeline, overview of the project we created for Web3 Foundation grant, and our development stack. So take a look into these links. Someone just copied paste some cut them from the document. Okay, so I see them. So they're at the bottom of the document. We last week, two weeks ago, we said that we're going to onboard two out of 3 teams we're working with, and in our process, we decided that we're going to work with external teams, like let's say dev shops, and we have best companies in this tech working on the project. So during these 2 weeks, we onboarded 2 companies. Dockyard, where creator of Phoenix framework is working, and he's a part of the team working on the project now. And we onboarded a team from Gaslight. And one team will work on indexing and database and fetching and indexing data. So they working on low level. In our case, low-level stuff, and second team is working on front-end and making this front-end part of Explorer. We have issues. We have 82 open issues, and most of them are feature requests, and we put into 3 projects at the moment. So we have. When we think about Explorer, we think that we have 2 main group of users. One group of users, we call them contributors, or it's a polite form of and a legal form of calling investors, right? People who are invested in cryptocurrency, and they're interested about to get information about transactions, tokens and so forth, right? And second group is a group of developers who are interested in the same as contributors, but with additional features like smart contract verification and querying data from smart contracts, and in future interacting with this data, like having like interaction with smart contracts inside inside Explorer. Right now, it's not possible. And third group of issues we have, it's about architecture and workers and database. And this question we raised last time: can we make this architecture modular? Can independent teams work on different parts? And in reality, we understand that it's quite possible. So we have one team working on fetching and indexing part, and we want to make it as fast as possible, as efficient as possible, and also adaptable, because there are in different projects there are modifications of Ethereum protocol and some let's say in POA network we have validators with identity at stake, right? So we keep individual parts of identity in smart contracts, but in proof of work mainnet we have what we have. We have uncles, right? And we don't have uncles and proof of stake system. So that's different metadata we will need to keep in different instances of Explorer, and that's why we're thinking about these types of modifications at the beginning of the process. So we're thinking, oh, it's not only it's not only POA specific. We need to make it first of all POA specific because we're building it for us, but POA is different from mainnet, so we will keep this pluggable, specific to all other chains and forks. Do you have any questions so far?
I do have some questions. Hi, it's Rick. Sorry, I'm late to the call. Sure, Rick. Igor, I think we've met in person a couple times actually, and I've met Griff. I don't know the other three of you though. So what are you indexing exactly, Igor?
Well, we're indexing everything we can index, right? It's blockchain data and also some metadata we receive from calls to contracts, like tokens, and many types of tokens we'll see. And yeah, you can open this list of issues. I'll put it into a document. Okay, so it's architectural. So do you have any more specific about what we're indexing?
That's good for now. Thanks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been working on, which is not a blockchain explorer, but
hey Rick, can we yeah. Just if anyone has more, we'll stay on the POA topic, and I can move. We'll have your agenda item right after that. But if anyone,
sorry, yeah,
no worries. I just want to see if anyone else has any comments on Igor's presentation, little spiel before everyone.
I'd like to. It's not just I stopped in the middle because people may ask some questions, and after I just want to continue a little bit more about Retro.
So, any other questions for Igor, or he can keep rolling? I think you're good.
Mm-hmm. So we onboarded 2 teams, and we have one more team to onboard, and we plan to make it in end of April. It's a company, Platform Tech, the creator for Elixir language, and our stack is Elixir, Erlang, Phoenix framework, Postgres, and general purpose deployment. So we plan to, speaking of Explorer deployment, we plan to support 6 instances. At the moment we're thinking about supporting 6 instances and mainnet for Ethereum mainnet and for 3 testnets of Ethereum. So we have 2 milestones. One milestone is to be on pair with Ether chain light, and second is to be on pair with Etherscan. So it's kind of our big shot, right? To make the same version, and after that, it will be very interesting because we will have some new, how to say, new ideas coming all around, right? Because we can right now we need to have the same Explorer for sidechain forks and private blockchains with the same set of features as Etherscan. It's our main goal, and make it available to anyone to run on their computers and their cloud. But also we will host 6 instances, and this is our plan. But if other projects will be interested in hosting their blockchain explorers by us, we will provide this kind of service, but we will not without asking. So let's say if Cubic or Expanse or Rootstock or Classic or anyone else will be interested in hosting Explorer by us, we can do this, no problem. So that's our plan for to onboard one more team. So we'll have 3 different teams, and we'll create one more of issues where individual people can work on individual part of the Explorer. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
I would like to go over, there was a few questions that were brought up. It was just more about the individual Explorer that I'd like to answer, if that's okay, if we have time for that.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So there was a couple questions about just instant without having to refresh the page, and this is all built in. We have issues for when a transaction comes in, there's no refreshing. We'll just pop on the page, pending, and then mined, and then the balance will update. So no refreshes will be needed. This past week, we've worked on indexing, and our first run was 12 minutes for our SOOOOO testnet, which is about half the size of Ethereum mainnet, which went from 6 hours to 12 minutes, which is very good. Yeah, so that's the progress for this week. There's a couple other questions in here. Some we're really still trying to work out, but we'll have full token support, and then after our version 2 release, which is of Etherscan, we will support other tokens besides ERC20 as well. So basically that's and then as far as import export, we will be making daily dumps into repository. We haven't actually worked out the complete details yet of that, but so anybody who wants to, for example, catch up to Ethereum mainnet quickly, so they just run an instance of our open source block explorer, then download the dump, and they'll basically be up to the current block height.
Yeah, it's like it's like synchronizing snapshots in Parity, where you can get this snapshot of Explorer, and after backfill all missing data. And it's important for it's less important for like information about blocks and transactions, but it's more important for metadata we extract from transactions and smart contracts, right? And also some metadata which you cannot get out of blockchain, like verified smart contracts, or some comments, or something we cannot get, like images of tokens, right? and names of accounts and so forth. So that's interesting thing to do, because also we are very interested to get feedback. What's interesting to synchronize.
Just on this note, there were these questions at the top. So we're reading from a list. So maybe some people don't know what we're talking about. But there were 2 questions at the beginning. That's like, where's the best place for feature requests? And is there a document that will outline the features that you guys find are important?
Yeah, for last time we thought about having RFC in EIP repository, right? Like the EIP, but no one created it yet. At the moment, we keep features in POE Explorer repository, and I think we will figure out how to make how to make it less dependent on POA projects, because I understand if we keep it inside our repository, it will be harder for other side chains and forks to participate, because they're basically contributing to our network, right? So we're thinking how to make it out of our repository, but with keeping our leadership in this process. And that's what we can think about and discuss, and it will be important to bring more projects into this idea, right?
Yeah. So right now, the best place for feature requests is just in your guys' GitHub.
Yeah, at the moment, right? It is.
And do you have one document with the list of feature requests that's open, or is that?
Well, it's a list of issues, and we put them into projects, and they're in different stages, so you can see which issues are in progress. So if you open, let's say, architecture, workers, and database, you can see that there are 3 issues in progress by 2 engineers, and 10 in to-do list, and 2 just in Icebox. So it's just they're waiting for more data. But cool. Yeah, we're open to basically to discuss this feature, and we have our own RethinkDB internally, but we think that when Explorer will be ready for 1.0, we will make a demo on this call, or we'll make another call to show what we've built and the progress, and how exciting it is. All right.
And are there any other questions for POA Network?
I would like to ask Andrew. That sounded super impressive. 12 minutes for indexing.
Yeah, it's for
Kovan.
No, it's for Kovan, not for mainnet.
It's for Kovan. But then it is with an Ethereum node through the complete Kovan network, or is it starting from some other database dump?
It's actually SOOOOO network, yeah. But it's our test net, yeah. Yeah,
it's a half of size of Kovan network. So we expect indexing of mainnet in like 2 to 3 hours. So that's our goal for performance.
And what kind of entities are you indexing? Just blocks, transactions, logs, or also internal calls?
Internal calls as well, and transaction receipts. Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Any other questions for POA Network? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to throw this out to Kosala while we're on the topic. Do you have a place where people can request issues?
No, not currently, but you can always go to the GitHub repo and then make a request or make an issue over there. But I just wrote down, today I'm going to make a documentation where on our repo where they can go and ask for feature requests and issues or anything that they want to implement. And yeah, that'll be done today. We'll have a one document or one place where people can go and comment or add features.
Okay, cool. Well, Rick Dudley, who popped in. Rick, you want to introduce yourself like more formally, like who you work for and that kind of thing, and then tell us about your project.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name is Rick Dudley. I have my own company. It's called Vulcanize Incorporated. Our main client right now is MakerDAO. I've been in the Ethereum space since before the network launch, so around January 2015, let's say. Let's split the difference. And the project, I'm sorry, I'm a bit rushed. I just had a call with Rob yesterday, and he told me about this call, and then I ended up, I had other stuff I had to do. But basically, what we're doing now is we're building a product called VulcanizeDB. And it seems like we all have some database experience, so I'm going to try to explain it as succinctly as possible, given that. Hopefully we're all familiar with IPFS. IPFS basically is a content addressable storage system. So if you have already hashed the object that you're looking for, you can present that hash to IPFS, and it will return to you the object. Obviously, this means you must already know the hash of the object. When we're doing a search for data in a database, we do not know the hash of the thing that we're trying to get back. So when you do a traditional relational query, you get back a result set. In the case of a blockchain, if you're querying blockchain data, like blocks, transaction receipts, etc., the thing that you will get back will all be content addressable. It'll all be hashed. So you could take that result set from a given height. So you have a given block height, a given query, and then you have a given result set. You can take those three things and create a content addressable object. So now what you have is you have the ability to create caches of blockchain data that are content addressable. And this is a very powerful tool. So what we're using that for right now is we're using it to build a contract watching system for MakerDAO. Another way of thinking about that is if you take a traditional enterprise database concept, ETL, extract, transform, and load. Hopefully we're all familiar with this concept. We are swapping the L and the T. So we are extracting data from Ethereum, we are loading it into Postgres, and then each application writes its own transformer that is then run alongside that Postgres database. And those transformers can do any number of things. So for example, we could write a transformer that exposed, and the transformers expose GraphQL endpoints. So once the transformer has done its job, has been loaded, it will do some computation potentially on the data that it has loaded from the Postgres database and expose the computed data as well as the cached data from the blockchain via a GraphQL interface. So that makes it very easy to do something like build a block explorer. In fact, it's relatively trivial to build a block explorer. We have a demo video that just does block exploring from the GraphQL endpoint. We haven't written a front end for that because again, our main client right now is Maker. So what we're doing with Maker is Maker has a website, die.makerdao.com, which shows you the history of their fairly sophisticated contract structure, the DAI service itself. We are going to be replacing the backend that they have written for that with VulcanizeDB. And we're pretty much ready to do that now. I'm not entirely, coordination between clients is not always super easy. I don't know exactly why we haven't gone into production yet, but it's pretty much ready to go into production. And so we've written a suite of transformers. Maker is planning on writing dozens of more transformers to support basically a unified caching layer for all the different applications that they run that rely on data derived from the Ethereum blockchain. So what I've described so far is sort of like version 1 of VulcanizeDB. Version 2 of VulcanizeDB is you can take these basically content addressable materialized views of blockchain data and gossip them around. So you can say, hey, I'm looking for this computed data from at this block height, and you can just sort of broadcast that out onto a network, an IPFS network, and one of these nodes will actually return to you the hash for the thing that you asked for and the actual result, so that you can then compare that result with hashes and results gotten from other nodes in the cluster. And you can also do this in a hierarchical way, because as you guys, I'm sure, realize in building out your indexes, when you index the Ethereum blockchain, you end up with this low multiplication of the data, 7 times bigger, 6 times bigger. And it's very difficult. It's already difficult to store the Ethereum blockchain, so storing the additional indexes becomes difficult. But with VulcanizeDB, you can actually pick various ways of sharding that. They're pretty arbitrary. It's pretty much like, you're just doing Postgres. You can slice it any number of different ways so that you can more easily cluster And in fact, you could have different people who are running their own transformers could be sharing data amongst themselves so that they don't all need to have all of the indexes and all of the data from all of the blockchain. And they can, you know, so they can sort of share the load. And then again, we're all in the blockchain space. You can add another layer on top of that and monetize that process. So I could be an application that will pay a host, you know, some money to return back these results and then verify that they're in fact correct, because it is all content addressable data. So that was a lot of stuff to sort of drop on you guys all at once. But that's what I'm working on, and just even on this call, seeing you guys saying like, well, I'm run, you know, my indexing service, it took this many minutes and this many seconds, and I've totally been there. I've been running 12-hour indexes and all that stuff, and it's like, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could just get like a hash of that and then just, you know, get that gossiped around instead of having to rebuild it all the time. And that's sort of where a lot of these concepts come from, and we're piggybacking on the work of Parity's IPFS work and Herman Young's IPFS work and MetaMask's IPFS work.
Do you guys have any questions for Rick?
Not as of now, but do you have a repo or somewhere?
Yeah, let me just paste the repo in I'll paste it. Should I paste it in this document?
Yeah, throw it in the document for sure. Just throw it at the bottom.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Rick? VulcanizeDB sounds really cool, and hopefully it will be. Is it open source, Rick?
Yeah, it's open source. It's right there. The watchers haven't been made open source yet, but they exist. And like I said, I'm just trying to figure out when the sponsor is going to release it. But it works and it's ready. And I think we might have a demo video somewhere. I'll paste that in the channel too, I think.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Showing the GraphQL working.
Okay. Well, if there's no more questions for Rick, then the next agenda item is EthVM. Hearing an update from MyEtherWallet over there.
Oh boy. So yeah, EthVM. Since the last call, programming-wise or the backend-wise, there was nothing that has been done, but we did a lot of stuff in the front end. And I did, we'll be having another new team member from next week who will be taking care of most of the backend stuff and like get it out there and like get the development going, and pretty much he'll become the lead developer. More on that on our next call. But right today, I just want to share like the current status of the current like features of EthVM. So I was hoping we can do a screen share if that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Let me figure out how to do it first. I think this is, yeah.
It works.
Can you see the game screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So so right now this is the current EthVM, the blockchain explorer as of right now. So over here it's syncing, and I wanted to show you guys like how it updates. So it's like currently behind, but like over here it'll show you the last blocks, time sense, and then the hash rate, difficulty, all those things. But as you can see, like this is my main objective since the beginning. This was my main objective, but like a lot of developments happening. So I think my objective right now should be making it more usable by other blockchain other Ethereum networks, like Ethereum-based networks, and make it more modularized and make it more useful to everyone. And so right now, as you can see, it's updating like each and every block, number of failed transactions and all those things, average TX cost, all the the normal stuff. And over here you can see all the uncles. Also you can when after it fully synced, you can see like the uncles happening in real time. So like for example, you might see two blocks with the same number, but like the next second it might be one of them will become the uncle, and then the other one will become the main block. So like, yeah, since it's real-time updating, you can see all those things as well, and the transactions from the last block. And like if you, let's go inside a block. Like for example, if I go inside that block, the block details and like all the transactions from that block and the failed ones also. And if you go inside one, you can see the transaction data. The main, I don't think the pending will be working, but like if you go to, for example, let's say you're on the pending page, and like you can see all the pending transactions that comes in. But like if you go inside one of them and wait, if you go inside one of them, you can see, even though it's pending, you can see the gas used by that transaction and whether that transaction will go through based on the current state of the network. And for example, like if it has higher nonce than processed transaction, or like if there are multiple transactions with incrementing nonces, but that hasn't been processed, and if you go into a transaction that's in advance or transaction that's with a nonce that's like 100 from the current state, then obviously that's not going to be processed. But yeah, it'll show you based on the current state whether your transaction can go through or not, and it'll show you the gas use and all those things before the transaction get processed by a block. So that way you can know, like at the beginning, whether your transaction will go through or not, and then take necessary actions based on that. Also, we're working on charts. This is not done yet, but this will be pretty much like general ideas on how, like the top miners and summaries and all those information, just like another like blockchain explorer, and all those informations are here as well. It'll be done pretty soon. Like I'm thinking most likely by the end of next week, all these should be done. And the blocks page is done as well. Again, all these are updating in real time. So that's the current status of EthVM. And I would love to get more ideas and more feature requests from everyone in the community, plus you guys, and so that we can plan the future and make it more compatible across multiple chains. I really like what Ego said. I'm making it just not thinking about like the chain you're working on, but thinking about multiple chains out there. That's not something that's definitely not something I was thinking before, but after this call, that's definitely something I'll be thinking and making it modularized as well. Also, to answer the questions on the document. Hold on, let me get the questions. So yeah, immediately know whether the transaction went through or not. That's already implemented. Infrastructure-wise, I want to make it a single Docker container, so anyone can just download the Docker container and have it up and running in no time, and make it so it's right now it has a Go Ethereum backend, and as long as everyone, like if the fork chain is using Go Ethereum, it's super easy to implement the backend. But if you're using a different client, like for example Parity or something, then that work needs to be done to make it usable with Parity as a backend. And other than that, no refreshing of the page needed. Build modularity, I definitely want to make it more modular. And token support is the backend. In backend, the token support is there, but the front end is not done yet for that token support. And internal transactions as well. Fast synchronization speed, that's definitely something I have to work on. I'll be willing to take advice from Igor and POA Network on how they were able to achieve such a great speed. Because yeah, that's definitely one hurdle that I'm trying to tackle as of right now, trying to make it more, try to make it faster. Because right now it slows it down. Like let's say if the main chain take 6 hours to sync on Geth, like without any modifications. It'll take around 12 hours to sync with the chain modifications on, so that it updates the database in the backend as well. So it's pretty much like double the time of currently like a normal sync versus the syncing with the Ethereum Explorer or EthVM on. So that's definitely something I have to work on, and I'll be talking with POA network people on that to get a better idea on how to do a proper job on that. And dApps with custom account pages. This is easy to implement. It's not been implemented yet, but again, anyone can do a PR with their custom account page that we can easily integrate, and individual dApps can have their own custom pages using our API to display their information. Microservices, this is number 8, is definitely not done. But again, it is I think it is a simple enough feature that we can implement fast. Custom code for bridges, that I will look into. Scalability to support many reads. That's already when I started working on EthVM, that's like one of the main goals I had, was to make it more scalable, so the database can be scaled to any number of users. It's already supported by 3 shards. I'm using RethinkDB for those who are not familiar with the backend database I'm using. It's RethinkDB with 3 shards running, and right now it can support a huge number of users at the same time. But adding another shard to the RethinkDB is like super easy as well. So you can, the more shards you add, you can have like X number of users. And it can scale without any problems in the backend. Interface between front and backend defines standard format. I think that's something we all have to work on. I don't think we have a document anywhere with all the standards. We talked about it last time, but I don't believe we have a document anywhere set up yet. But if there's a document, I'm willing to collaborate and add my thoughts into it, and like a feature request that or the standards I think will better suit the community. Easy import and export. That's again like the RethinkDB. That's what I have, but snapshotting is something that came up during our discussion on this call, and I think that's a really good feature to have by like any blockchain explorer out there. So anyone can just download the snapshot and get it going as fast as they can. And that's something, that's something we can easily integrate as well, and have the RethinkDB export every like X number of minutes, or every day for that matter. And they only have to, like, whoever downloads the snapshot only have to sync up to the next day, or like for the next couple of hours. And that way we can get it up and going in no time. I think that's pretty much it. I believe I answered all the questions on the document. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I have one quick question. You mentioned that you have you're onboarding, I assume, a Go dev. Are there any other devs that you're looking for to get on this train?
I would love to. As of right now, like with all these, like the crazy number of features and the things like come up on this call, especially, and everywhere else, I would love to have anyone who's good in Ethereum and JS and Go to reach out to me if it's possible, and we can definitely find something. Because there are so many requests, like not just on EthVM, but like everything else that we are working on. We can always find something for anyone who's experienced in blockchain on Ethereum especially, and if they know JS and TypeScript, and especially Go or Rust for that matter, so that we can have Parity client up and going.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions on the update from Kosala?
I'm curious, what modifications have you done to Geth?
So Geth has a custom tracer running. It's all open source again. It should be under Encrypt.io. Geth, to capture all the internal transactions and internal calls, Geth has a custom tracer running with Geth, and it also checks for all the incoming pending transactions and see whether it can process the transaction or not with the current state. And if it can, it processes the transaction and then upload it to the DB. If not, it'll just upload the pending transaction as it is to the database. And indexing wise and filtering all those, all the logs bloom. So those are getting uploaded as well. So we can do indexing in the backend with RethinkDB. Plus, I'm uploading the data not as hex. I'm uploading it as bytes to save space. Otherwise, I mean, pretty much it'll double the space needed for the database to run. There are some drawbacks and disadvantages of doing it because RethinkDB is not really good at indexing bytes. So I have to find workarounds sometimes, but so far everything works out great with RethinkDB, but especially because I couldn't find any other database that's real-time and open source. There's Firebase, but that's by Google. So
yeah, we use Firebase for some things, but oh well. Yeah, so we have about 2 more minutes. So does anyone have any last comments before we let everyone go back to deving their hearts out? No? Okay, let's oh, Conrad?
Oh, I was just gonna say thanks for this meeting. It was quite exciting to hear all the stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to add that thank you, Griff and Giveth for organizing this. Because when we received it, 2 weeks already passed, right? So it's good that you help us to organize it, right?
Our pleasure. Yeah. Yeah, well, cool. Thank you, guys. I think we can call it then. And I guess we'll try to get some kind of collaboration thing. We were talking about doing EIPs and maybe trying to start a Eth research vein. And so I think I'll work with Aldo to continue that and see if we can find a place in Eth research for us to hang out. But if anyone has any ideas on the best place to collaborate, right now we have our Telegram group, so I think that's working pretty well. And if we ever need to interact with each other, that's a great point of contact. So, well, thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Raf.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.